Sure, most MMA fighters are known for their heroics inside the cage, but these 7 mixed martial artists proved their mettle beyond any doubt after saving real people in real-life situations. From spontaneous and random acts of heroism to long drawn-out campaigns of aid, these fighters deserve another level of respect entirely. Here are 7 times MMA fighters saved people in real life. Derrick Lewis. First up, we have a man who is known just as much for his unique wit as he is for his thunderous knockout ability. But Derrick Lewis, despite his terrifying presence in the cage, actually seems like a genuinely good dude. The type of guy you'd easily go have a beer with. And though we love him for his hilarious one-liners, Lewis earned himself quite a lot of attention after a quick response to the floods that devastated Houston, Texas in the wake of Hurricane Harvey. Lewis is a proud Houston native himself and always gets a huge pop from the home crowd whenever he does a fight in front of his people. And a big reason for that was his major help he offered when his city needed him the most. As soon as he heard that there were people in need of rescue, this hulking, hard-hitting heavyweight immediately got in his truck and began saving people from the flood and helping them with their belongings wherever he could. Seriously, no one called on the Black Beast to show up, he just did. And if that's not the mark of a champion, we don't know what is. So next time you tune in for another barn burner featuring this longtime contender in the heavyweight division, be sure to keep in mind that this man has a full heart to back up his full power of fists. Indeed, it's his knockouts and instantly quotable post-fight interviews that we celebrate most when it comes to Derrick Lewis. But man, this heavyweight great has a heart of gold. Of that, there is little doubt.
Y'all okay?
Jake Shields. During the UC Berkeley riots, an anti-Trump rally turned chaotic when a group of masked rioters descended on a man they were accusing of being a neo-Nazi, attacking him without due process. It was a pretty crazy scene, but what they didn't count on was the presence of the former Strikeforce champion and Scrap Pack veteran Jake Shields, who, after seeing the man in question getting kicked and beaten, jumped in to defend him from his attackers. According to the mob, the man had been hurling racist insults at everyone in attendance before about 15 or so rioters jumped in to deliver their own justice. Shields, who saw a man getting outnumbered and beaten, attempted to tell some police and onlookers about what was happening. But in his own words, they did nothing. So being the fighter he is, regardless of who the man in question was, he opted to jump in and save him for what could have been a life-threatening set of injuries. This was pretty much as vigilante as it gets, with Shields risking his own health to ensure that such savagery didn't take place. Speaking about it afterwards, Jake was pretty shocked that no one else stepped in to do the right thing, something that clearly left a pretty sour taste in his mouth. As for the victim, no real information exists about how things got where they ended up. But either way, if one thing is for certain, it's that Shields came out of this looking quite a hero.
I obviously there was way too many of them. They eventually would have taken me down, so that's why I tried defusing the situation.
Right.
Threw a couple punches, pushed a couple of them back, got hit a few times, helped throw the guy in the store, and then just that was a little bit of the aftermath of me trying to, after I walked out of the store, being like, what the f***'s wrong with these guys?
Miesha Tate. This next one is truly astounding. Miesha Tate has been a fan favorite for years now, a true underdog who managed to clinch UFC gold under the most unlikely of circumstances. But her status as one of MMA's truest heroes was set in stone when her and her ex-husband and UFC bantamweight Brian Caraway decided to treat their family to a holiday in the Mexican city of Cancun. A snorkeling trip that went wrong would see Caraway's asthmatic mother lose one of her inhaler pumps after some commotion, leaving her exhausted as she attempted to swim back to the boat. Once they got there, their initial attempts at CPR didn't work, eating away at valuable seconds as they remained unconscious. Now, if we're being totally honest, Tate could fight for another 10 years unbeaten and never have a moment as amazing as this one. But when all hope seemed lost, Miesha decided to take a puff of another inhaler pump and use mouth-to-mouth to deliver it to her mother-in-law. Thankfully, this worked, and her airways began to clear. Trust us, this was a life-or-death situation that required some incredible quick thinking under pressure. And in that moment, Miesha Tate proved that she was up to the challenge. Caraway's mother made a full recovery, and Tate's improvisation was later studied by and pointed to by several medical professionals as an incredible display of life-saving skills. Guy Mezger. Up next is an old classic MMA favorite, the former kickboxer, karate fighter, boxer, and mixed martial artist Guy Mezger, a man who made his name in the earliest days of MMA, earning a reputation as one of the most game fighters alive. These days, he's happily retired from the sport, enjoying a deserved break from live fighting after years upon years of service. But what's crazy about Mezger's retirement is that it served up perhaps the most dangerous fight of all. In 2011, on a seemingly random day, Mezger witnessed a man being aggressive to a woman outside of a sports shop, alleging that he saw him hitting her. After moving in to try and settle the situation, the man in question attacked the MMA veteran with a knife, which, as you'd expect, did not go well for him. Being the experienced martial artist that he is, Mezger easily disarmed his attacker, throwing him to the ground in the process. And while he attempted to console the woman, the crazy knife-wielding son of a gun attempted to stick him while he wasn't looking. When Guy landed his second punch, the attacker didn't get up. But in the process, he had managed to sever 3 tendons on Mezger's hand, something that forced him to undergo surgery. All in all, This was a crazy situation that really could have gone a lot worse under different circumstances, but thankfully the damage sustained on both sides was minimal. Remember, if you're enjoying this content and want to see more, hit that subscribe button before giving us your thoughts in the comment section below. Chris Mintz. Out of all the entries on this list, none are more dramatic and truly disturbing than this one. Chris Mintz might not have made a name for himself within the sport of mixed martial arts, but nowadays he is seen by many as a true hero, having potentially saved the lives of a large number of students. The Umpqua Community College shootings of 2015 are to this day seen as a majorly dark day in the history of the United States, where a lone gunman opened fire on anyone unfortunate enough to find themselves in his way. Mintz, an Army veteran who was enrolled in a fitness course in the college, heard screams coming from a classroom nearby. Springing to action immediately after the sound of gunshots, he helped to move many of the students out of the classroom while warning those in the next room. Then he proceeded to block the doorway to the classroom with his own body, stifling the gunman's attempts to get at the occupants. Mintz, despite this, took 5 bullets to various parts of his body before pleading with the attacker to spare his life so he could see his son again. In the end, once the chaos had subsided, Mintz was declared a hero and was able to raise $650,000 in donations to pay for his extensive medical costs. While being the true fighter that he was, Mintz was released from the hospital just 6 days later, beginning the long road to rehabilitation. Again, he didn't manage to find success inside the cage, but man, did this act of true heroism go a long way in proving what type of a man Chris Mintz is.
I just want to wish all the other families a safe and speedy recovery, and I will be talking to you guys soon.
Justin Wren. Justin Wren might not be a name that is immediately familiar to a lot of you, but this former UFC and Bellator veteran managed to carve out a pretty impressive 13-2 record before hanging up his gloves in 2017. But there's more to this story than meets the eyes. These days, Wren is one of the most revered humanitarians in the sport, a real hero to those in need. His charity, Fight for the Forgotten, got a pretty huge bump after he sat down with Joe Rogan for a memorable podcast back in 2015, and in the time since, he has made it his mission to help and sustain the indigenous Mbuti Pygmy tribes of the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Seriously, this guy was using his own MMA career earnings to fund the purchase of land and the building of wells to stop these people from dying out. There are warriors inside the cage, and then there are guys like Justin Wren who believe in battling for something more. His work has helped in raising awareness about the plight of indigenous tribes like the Mbuti Pygmies. The more you learn about this guy, the more you'll grow to really appreciate his journey. Once a mid-tier MMA heavyweight, depressed and struggling with his drug addiction, the dude managed to turn his life around and become an iconic figure for reasons that go far beyond the violence of the cage. And if that's not a fighter journey, we don't know what is. Props to you, Justin Wren, for taking this fight to the real world. Now a well-known figure within humanitarian circles, Wren's aims have been going from strength to strength as he continues to battle to save pygmy lives. Chris Weidman. And finally, we come to the All-American himself, the former UFC middleweight champion and Anderson Silva slayer that is Chris Weidman. When he's not putting in the work in the gym or on the wrestling mats, this 185-pound icon has been known to play superhero to his neighbors. One morning, as he was getting set to pick up his brother-in-law Stephen Wonderboy Thompson from the airport, Weidman heard the sounds of someone in distress. Once he moved in to investigate, he realized that it was his 94-year-old neighbor yelling, "Help me." As he got closer, he realized that she was bleeding, and bleeding heavily. After calling the emergency services, Weidman sat by the lady's side for nearly 20 minutes as paramedics rushed to the scene, doing everything he could to keep her occupied and conscious as she began to lose a lot of blood. As she faded between pure panic and calm, Weidman continued to talk her through the pain, promising that help would be arriving soon. In the end, the ambulance came and the woman's life was saved. She had fallen through a glass table in her house and had sustained some serious wounds to her body. And had Weidman not have followed his instincts in chasing down the odd noise he heard that morning, this one could have turned out a lot worse. Sure, he's known best for his wins and losses inside the cage, but Chris Weidman managed to prove himself on another level entirely with his heroics here. And that will just about do it for this video. Remember, if you're enjoying our content here at Watch MMA, let us know in the comment section below before leaving a like and subscribing to the channel so you don't miss our next video.